G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff, Ukraine War Update for the 20th of July 2024. We're coming to the end of week 3 and, week 3 of July, but in this current cycle we're coming to the end of week 5, and next week we should see exactly how much damage the Russians have done to the Ukrainian front line and the effectiveness of their offensive. So far they've made slight grounds. Whether or not they ground to a halt next week or break through, and that means they'll continue their offensive. And so far they've broken through. They've taken more towns than previously. But however, major cities, this is where the Russians have really bogged down, major cities. And we'll get to that as we go around the map. But again, this is primarily not because of Ukraine's manpower, firepower, bravery, but landmines, okay? Ukraine ain't brave. They're not stunning and brave. They're not heroic. They're suicidal, okay? And this could have been negotiated 2 years ago. Come on. This is why so many people tune out. I know. Truth just doesn't sell. I know. I know people don't like my voice. I know the rosacea on my nose upsets people. I'm not perfect. I'm not Tucker Carlson. I don't... But neither is Tucker Carlson. He's a myth of his own lunchbox, of his own making. And of course his mythology is wearing thin. There are times he's asked the hard questions, and he's asked some pretty good questions about the Ukraine war, but he's walked away from it. And that's sad. And so have many people, and that's sad. But most people are watching the garbage tier news like The Sun, and it's frustrating that hundreds of thousands of people listen to the same lies over and over again on a daily ritual basis. Now, I don't proclaim to be a geopolitical expert, but for something, watching the Ukraine war clicked, and it does go back to my youth and the stories about war from my grandmother, who went through Nazi occupation. Now, I didn't get much and learn much about war really until history. A lot of history, particularly World War II. And over the years, learning more and more about the secrets of World War II, the Great Escapes, and the fact that the Nazi regime was undermined primarily inside, as well as the mistakes that they made. And I'm seeing this now play out in that Ukraine, again, has this massive military-industrial complex behind it, as America did in Vietnam. In Vietnam, I've been to the country. I've spoken with people who I wish I had my recordings. But coming back, they examined my tapes. And a lot of people won't go on the record and tell you the goddamn truth. They'll tell it to you privately. America was winning the war, folks, until that traitor, Walter Cronkite, sold you a false bill of goods. And people decided to riot and loot, and then let the left become a violent stain on America's history, which persists today. The same violent people who supported Vietnam now support Ukraine, because hate West, destroy Russia. Because ultimately, China wants to destroy Russia, and this is what it's all about. And of course, Europe wants to destroy Russia because they want their pipeline to the east. they want their the cud chewers, the greedy moron mentality of the lazy. Now, Ukraine has entered into a new round of peace talks with Russia, though they're reporting it as a new round. But they've actually been talking for the last 2 days. So a lot of news organisations seem to be very pathetic when it comes to reporting the war, very lazy, very clickbaity. But as you can see, the predominant video and this is unfiltered, right? The only tool I've used is the past 24 hours. You can see in the last 24 hours, Ukraine has been hit hard yet again. Yet most of the Western media front page, yet again, is about another attack on Moscow's airports. Yet they show you the same old footage. And actually one of them shows you an explosion, which actually, this one, as you can see, a lot of them are CGI explosions, same ones, burning buildings. Now, a lot of the same buildings over and over again are getting hit, and people say, oh, but this is what Ukraine really looks like in many places now. Most of the front line, as you can see, is getting hit by Russian artillery. And if it wasn't for landmines, Russia would probably be halfway through Ukraine right now. And again, that's what they've been using cluster munitions and landmines now for over 1,000 days. This ain't propaganda, folks. This is Western media starting to realise that, shit, they better start reporting the Ukraine war honestly because people are tuning out. That's a fact. Okay? You look at the trending for Ukraine. It's gone from the millions down to the hundreds of thousands. Okay? And yet, here I am with a handful of truth seekers. Oh my God, that's a man. I kid you not, that's a mustache. But look how clean they are. And I don't mean, oh, they don't bath. I mean, they're too clean for the scene they're in. And then you take a moment to notice that the lighting difference. And that's a man. I don't care what you say. You look at the scenery around it. Notice they always cut the legs. But if you're in a dusty, dirty... Ever been near a fire? You get smoke on you very quickly. But look at this. Okay. No. It's not letting me increase the size of the image. Normally you could get... Normally on a right click, you know, you enlarge. But obviously, just... Something's wrong with this lighting, and they're doing it every time. They're saying in Ukrainian... See, the subtitle, a Ukrainian emergency service worker? Really? Can you see somebody extinguishing a fire in this scene? I see a draft dodger. But yeah, Russia launched another missile attack overnight. More than 300 drone strikes. Meanwhile, Ukraine, with its 15 drone attacks headed towards the capital, which most of them were shot down. Russia said there was suspended trains due to a drone attack, and there was an explosion and some fires. Russia's been more transparent than Ukraine. Now here we go. Here's the residential building. This is one of these back here. Let's see. I think this is the one. This is a different scene of this one on fire. That's a different one. I think this one is Chavez Yar. I've looked at some of these. Most of the pictures aren't fake. They're well lit, well consistent in their lighting. No, overly clean people with new clothes in the front foreground. Most of them are pretty on par. A lot of them, of course, are just composite pictures for clickbait. You can see the different explosions are almost the same. Russia's explosions are primarily orange, as they're using a highly acidic, volatile cocktail, and it burns bright. It burns orange. It is pretty hot. It's hotter than your standard, as you can see. It's everywhere. They use this stuff ad nauseum, okay? Whether it's in solid or liquid form. Mostly liquid, actually. I forget its name. But it's Russian anyway, so... But it's... It's used in their... what do they call it? Salandria. Power of the sun. They use it in its in a highly concentrated liquid form in what they call their flamethrower systems. But fires across Ukraine are rarely reported. So these are rare images of, these are training pictures. Sorry, there's Al Jazeera. These here are rare images, but they are often repeated over and over again. They repeat stories. See? 8 hours ago, 9 hours ago, they repeat stories all throughout the day. Making it look as if Ukraine is actually doing more than they actually are. And they actually edit their stories throughout the day as well. And as you can see, when these stories first came out, there's very little to them. And throughout the day, they'll add to it. They just keep adding more talking points. But again, it's there was a prisoner exchange. Ukraine and Russia are talking. India does not... did I not tell you that India would not support sanctions? And in fact... there's a Russian oil refinery in India. I told you, they're not your friends, bro. People keep falling for it. But as you can see, the slate is clean. Most people only get this news where the slate is clean. Ukraine has attacked Russia. Deep strikes, everybody. Ukraine is winning, everybody. They never tell you the situation on the front line. And yes, Russia's opened up new attacks, new offensives. So much for the Russian armies collapsed. But people watch these videos over and over and over again, and it's like, is this cope? Is this some sort of delusion that... Now, I don't know why Russia hasn't steamrolled Kupiansk. But not knowing the positions of the Ukraine, and I know there's a channel out there which constantly lies, and I'm not going to bother with the lies and call them out. Just show you the maps that Ukraine puts out very few maps, and those maps rarely show the positions of the Ukrainians, and when they do, they're often not there for long. Now, Russia's operations are often shown as there's operations here, but they often put the markers in the wrong place. The operations are actually here and here and here. There's always sporadic fighting in Chavez Yar, often not reported. The Russians have broken through the Ukrainian lines here and may control all of this, but it hasn't updated for 8 hours. And doesn't show the Russian artillery here. There were artillery exchanges, of course, all up and down the Zelensky line. Up and down here. A lot of them are showing, though. Not all. But there's a lot of activity here as well. There's a breakthrough here. It looks like the encirclement, they'll come up as far as here. Given the Russian tactics, they will usually come within striking distance and put pressure on the center of town to divide it, cut it. They'll cut through and basically line up, probably to about this point here and straight down, and they'll carve through, cut this off. But what they should and possibly end up doing is bringing up some more artillery here. But they are having missile exchanges in Pavlovsk. As you can see, the Russians have cutting them off, as I said they would. Right, they've cut through the top of this town. They've cut off the... they brought this all under fire control and brought this under fire control. Though there's still missile exchanges all the way through here. They've still got this road open. Now, it's a mess, okay? It's been pounded. A lot of these roads are now reduced to dirt. Some of these towns are husks. And it's clear that they're going to cut right through here. They're going to cut through this, right? Just cut it off. Don't know how much they'll cut it off because Russia has said several times that they will not encircle the Ukrainians because they just dig in. That it's easier to wear them out and have them retreat. But in some places they've worn them out and they still haven't retreated. And they are hitting them hard. So it looks like next week is going to be a renewed offensive beginning with fresh troops, reinforcements, whether or not there'll be an increase or a decrease. Well, the increase is always there. It's temporary. Where the second line comes up to the first line, the third line comes up to the second, the new arrivals come in the third, and slowly the troops whose rotation is up will come from the first to the third. But that is over a 6-week period. What we're seeing at the end of the 6-week period is a slight dip in the 6th week and then an increase. Now, the next week there'll be a slight decrease in activity, but there should be a double whammy. There should be probably Tuesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Saturday, a combined missile drone strike. They'll do 2 instead of, which means they slightly adjust their regular programming where they hit every 3 days. They'll slightly adjust it. It'll be just over 3 days and then 2 days and then back to their 3-day cycle. Now, I don't know if this has anything to do with factory output, train schedules, or they're lulling Ukraine into the lullaby. If you know anything about military music, or rhythm, music and rhythm. The lullaby is where you pattern your artillery and the enemy gets used to the pattern. This started World War I, particularly the pattern of artillery, and they would sit there and basically set their clocks by, particularly the French, by the German artillery. And then one day, I think this was Somme, where instead of the usual bomb, 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 it was, and it was like 14 days, right? This is what I'm talking about. They'll come into the lullaby, and then boom, they'll hit them with an offensive. And the offensive, starting in August, will light, and you've seen this before, light up the entire front line, which will stretch from here to here, And if Ukraine's honest, there'll be a pounding of Kiev. Where is it? Somewhere in here. There's an industrial hub somewhere in here. And we'll go to the hub cities. Most of them are Krivishye, Dnipro, and Kharkiv will be hit. Maybe Politivka, definitely Odessa, sometimes Marikov, sometimes Kherson, but it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the next day there'll be a few after strikes, to round off the. They'll probably start with three batteries will open up and send the first wave of missiles, so there'll be 8 to 24, and then there'll be the next to round up to 36 in total. Seems to be a pattern that they are lulling, and the Ukrainians will get used to this and start patterning their air defences, and that is when they're dug in. That is the danger. That is when Russia will strike. This is what the French did to the Germans did to the French, the British did to the Germans, and the Germans did to the Russians. And it was actually successful for quite some time against the Russians, because they had, and always had until, I think, 1963, shitty artillery. When they created the Gant B, the 153mm, it has been one of the most successful artillery pieces in modern military history. Unfortunately, when it comes to modern military history, Russia has been humiliated most of the time. So this is what Ukraine is betting on. Russia's inability to sustain war. Remember, Russia couldn't sustain World War II. They were bailed out by the United States. That's undeniable, no matter what Putin says. Russia was bailed out. The spotter, probably, by the looks of it, he's actually raising an aerial in line with the... He's probably raising what looks to be a periscope or an aerial. I would say he's taking might even be a laser pointer, or he's taking a photograph. Either way, Ukraine has allegedly lost in combat, one single combat, more than 1,000 soldiers, and there's others throughout the day. In the Zaporozhye region. Remember, these are actually light battles, considering the thousands of artillery pieces that each side could bring. But they're not. But, according to Der Spiegel, a left-wing German newspaper, by the way, that the US may have approved Kiev's talks for a proposal with Russia through the special envoy to get things moving. So, I'm not saying that I did this by calling out. I'm just recognizing the fact that I was right, that calling out Ukraine would bring them back to the table, but with conditions. Zelensky wants a meeting with Putin. Why? Because Zelensky wants to legitimize himself. They always talk about lasting peace. The lasting peace is this dead man dead. And you have to recognize the fact that Zelensky is an authoritarian, manipulative, self-centered narcissist. He cannot bring lasting peace. He promised that in 21. He promised to fix the Ukraine economy in 22. Instead, he shelled the people of Donetsk for protesting against the election because their vote was discarded. But the meeting that really matters is the next meeting between Trump and Putin. It's essential. It's only a matter of time. Putin believes that a direct meeting with Trump, with his no-nonsense, straight talk, will settle Ukraine. Maybe not this time, but Putin seems to be believing that a peaceful course will be directly between the two. So let's hope and let's pray for a moment or two that Trump and Putin do meet, not once but twice. Once to hammer out both sides' talking points, and whether or not Zelensky steps down or not doesn't matter, because once Trump tells the little peanut to swallow his pride, little peanut will, and little peanut will be killed by his own. Putin does not want to kill Zelensky. He said time and time again it'll be at the hands of his own people anyway. But he'll be blamed. And I believe that. I believe his own people will kill him eventually, because his deputy, he'll keep replacing his deputies. Otherwise, he'll never allow an opposition party. Every time an opposition group forms, he breaks it up. Stop pretending that Ukraine is defending democracy. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and please support the channel. You can support me on Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. Book 4 is out. All my links are in the link tree, in the description below, in my profile, or scan your QR code on the screen. Thank you for your time. See you in the next video. Bye for now.